All right, we're joined here on Wisconsin.golf by Neil Johnson, coming to us where from Phoenix. Neil, where are
Yeah,
you at
I'm
right
in
now?
yeah, I'm in Phoenix. I'm in my old apartment as I transition into a new apartment today. Yeah.
Outstanding. Never a dull moment with you, is it?
Yeah, it's always busy. It's about 110 degrees here today, so it's a perfect day to move.
Work up a
Yeah.
good sweat, no doubt about it. Well,
Oh,
we thank
yeah.
you for doing this. Just wanted to touch base with you. We're going to talk right off the top about your experience on the Outlaw Tour, and we'll get to that shortly. But some breaking news: the Canadian Tour calls off the 2020 season. I know that you had been involved in converting an event. What was it, from a Dakotas Tour event into a Canadian event up in Brainerd, Minnesota? Forced you to miss the State Open last year, and I'm sure there was some excitement there, and now some disappointment, but maybe not totally unexpected, was it?
No, it wasn't unexpected in my mind. I mean, trying to figure out just the logistics of what they do with all their Q schools and then all the tournaments that already postponed, 7 or 8 of them. And then to try and squeeze them in, talking to a couple other guys who have Canadian Tour status, what they'd been hearing kind of through the grapevine, some rumors, and there were a bunch of options. I think they had Plan A, Plan B, Plan C, all the way to Plan G or H, whatever. What might happen,
Right.
but yeah, they just canceled it about an hour ago. Is when I was when I saw that the press release kind of came out. So that opens up the week for me, which means I'm going to do everything I can to qualify for Blue Mound. So I'm going to try and get into the Wisconsin State Open now. So that's a nice silver lining, I guess.
That's right. Where one door closes, another opens. That's outstanding.
Yeah. Yep.
Outstanding. Well, and it kind of segues nicely into our conversation about the Outlaw Tour. Many tours have really taken on a life of their own here during the COVID-19 pandemic, and especially your entourage at Neil Hole by Hole on the Twitter, and um, you know, with the live stream, with just kind of awareness for any golf that can be viewed, played, and you've been able to play in a number of Outlaw Tour events. I guess wanted to know what your impressions were of post COVID-19 competitive golf and the way it's gone on the Outlaw Tour.
It's I mean, it's different. We have pool noodles in the pin or in the hole. They cut
Right.
them down, so not supposed to be a factor. But this week actually, one of the guys I was playing with the first round hit a great wedge shot that, I mean, I swear it went down and spun out. It was out of a fairway bunker, so it had a ton of spin and it spun out. But maybe just going down to the pool noodle helped it spin out easier. You can't say for sure, but that's kind of the worst experience or worst kind of example I've seen where it's like, man,
Right.
I think that should have gone in, but no putts. It's a little weird to leave the flag in, but I mean that's the rules. I don't mind it. I mean, I don't mind seeing if you got a little 3-footer and you look and you see the pool noodle and you see the flag. I don't mind that. It just is what it is. It's better than not being able to play. We have that option. I didn't play like the first 2 months in March and into
Right.
April. I didn't play because I kind of felt weird in March, just like considering everyone back in Minnesota, Wisconsin. It was shelter and home. Everything was closed. The golf courses, when the weather got nice, couldn't open, and it took some petitions and some lobbyists
Yep.
to get it open. So um, yeah, I didn't play those first couple months, and then when May came around, I'm like, all right, I feel a little better. Let's get back to some competition because I wanted to make some money and I wanted to play. I mean, I kind of needed to do both, make money and play a bit.
So if we go through a laundry list of things that are and aren't happening with tournament golf that you've played, because tournament golf just beginning to start up now in Wisconsin. Wisconsin section had an event last week. They'll have more now going forward, especially after June 1st. So we talked about pool noodles in the bottom of the cup. What's the deal on bunkers and rakes? And then it looks like from the stream that it's one to a cart for your events that you're playing in the desert.
Yeah, this week we actually had the option. If you felt comfortable, you could share a cart, but
Hmm.
I don't feel comfortable. It's kind of one of those things like, hey, why take that risk? I mean, I feel like I'm healthy, but that doesn't mean someone I might share a cart with hasn't been exposed. Either their neighbor or their some third, fourth, fifth degree of separation. I don't know, but it's just like let's not take that risk. So I don't think I saw many people actually sharing carts, so it seems like everyone's still doing individual. The bunkers is a really weird thing because there's no rake. So if you hit in there, you pick it up, you can brush the sand, and then just place it right back down however you want. And those first couple tournaments in March and April that I wasn't playing, when I was watching some of the highlights on Instagram on the Outlaw Tour story, I'm seeing guys that are short sighted in awful positions in the bunker just hit these perfect, high, soft, spinning sand shots. I'm like, man, I didn't think that guy was that good out of the bunker. And then I realized, oh, that's because he has a perfect lie. And it's like that's the way it is. I'm not saying that they're breaking a rule. I'm saying that's
Right.
you brush it off, and if you got a long bunker shot, same thing. You brush it off, and then you give yourself the lie if you want to hit a chunk and run or whatever it is. And then a buried lie. I mean, 2 weeks ago playing TPC Champions,
Yeah.
guy buried it into the face of the bunker where you could see like 6 or 10 dimples, barely. Like, yep, that's the ball. And he gets to take it out, brush it, and then place it on top. Now he had a horrible stance, but um, I mean that buried lie. There was no way he was getting it out of there. He would have probably had to take an unplayable and drop it. So that
Sure.
that saved him. That saved him a shot. Um, but again, that's just the rules we got to kind of accept right now, so we can play. There's certainly worse things than having to play by that rule.
So let me ask you then, with the Outlaw Tour, um, I mean, in some regards, the stakes are high because you're playing for money. I mean, every time you tee it up in competition, there's something on the line. How do you feel about those rules in place for an Outlaw Tour event versus something like, as we go forward, a state amateur, a state open? We don't know specifically what's going to be in play, what's not going to be in play when those events come around in Wisconsin. What's your recommendation based on the way you've experienced things on the Outlaw Tour?
I mean, in general, I mean, I guess it's as fair as it can be. I mean, it's not. It's kind of like I guess it's the rub of the green, if you want to call it that. Like I remember that day thinking, okay, that guy just saved a shot, and on that same hole, he's buried in the lip, and I'd hit a shot that landed on the green, rolled over into the desert, and all of a sudden I'm hitting out of the desert, and I got a pine cone, or it was some kind of whatever pine cone twig, and another golf ball. I guess and I'm like, I got all this stuff in the way, and I can't move these branches, this twig, and he's in the bunker. Like, okay, I got to start hitting the bunker. Like, forget the desert, or whatever. Like, I'd rather miss it in the bunker. Um, so it's just the way it is.
Right.
I've wondered if there's a way, there could be one rake per group,
Sure.
um, which is the only. I played the Scottsdale AZ Open like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, whatever that was, and
Hmm.
that's separate from the Outlaw Tour. And they did that. They're like, listen, actually, every cart had a rake. So basically, I had my rake, you would have had your own rake, and our third guy, would have had his own rake. So anytime you're in the bunker, play it as it lies. You
Right.
bring your rake in there, and then you rake it and all that after you've hit the shot. And then they gave us spray bottles and like napkins to wipe down the rake if you felt so inclined, if you felt worried about it. That tournament also gave us the option on the flag stick. You could take the flag stick out, and again, they had the napkins. They said, hey, if you want to take it out, we recommend you grabbing it with a
Sure.
napkin. And I thought those were great ideas because then that week a lot of guys were taking the pins out, and they didn't have the pool noodles in because it was kind of your option. Like,
Right.
listen, if you don't have a problem reaching all the way down, just do it, and you got plenty of spray, spray bottle sanitizer to clean yourself if you want.
Tell you, it's going to be crazy because you even think about the pool noodle. I would think I watched one of your putts on one of the live streams, and it was a hard lip out. But as I looked at that lip out, I wasn't sure whether it grazed the noodle going over it. I didn't know. Again, you're trusting that the course setup people are measuring the noodle, making sure that that ball is truly getting below the surface or enough below the surface where But again, it's there's a lot of things that are in play here that are going to be difficult here as we go into the summer.
And I guess one of the first tournaments in March that the Outlaw Tour played after all this change and everything shut down. I sounded like the pool noodles weren't cut low enough. There was a,
Right.
there was there was a really really small kind of gap between the top of the hole. So some guys might have had some issues that week. And I would hope, you know, you look at the WSGA, you know, the WPGA, like, man, I mean, I trust those guys, you know, that they're probably, they probably have their own 18 pool noodles, you know, like they're not going to take that risk. You
That's
know,
right.
no offense to the golf courses, but it's like, listen, we have our pool noodles. We're going to use these, you know, and it gives us that entire ball, the entire height of the ball, you know, that it will sit below the cup before it hits the pool noodle, you know. So even if it does lip out, yeah, it could lip out and kind of ricochet off that if it's not cut. But yeah, I trust those guys, Joe, and then you know, all the guys I don't even know who's at WSG anymore. I
Well,
mean,
still Bill
Is it
Linneman,
still okay?
Billy,
Good.
and
Okay.
I don't know if we should
Okay.
trust Billy, you know. So that's the one. I mean, he may have like extra spring in his pool noodles that he's putting in the bottom of the cups, but no, I'm just kidding.
That'd
He's
be funny.
everyone loves
Yeah.
to pick on Bill, but I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, it's just something you got to add to the list of. And so you talked about carts, you talked about pool noodles, the rakes, and everything. Oh, I know what it was. You know, so if you could conceivably, there's a tournament, the Sheboygan Tournament of Champions that's coming up. They're talking about, you know, they won't even have it's going to be like hands-free scoring where you're going to keep your, or you're going to take, they're going to send in snapshots of the scorecard after the round. And I mean, they're not even going to stop to turn in the cards. Now at the event Gary D'Amato covered the other day in the Wisconsin section, Chris Hole had a you know, a drop-off point for the scorecards, and he would enter them. And you know, they did all their signing independent of you know, table. And again, until we have problems, it seems like the right way to go. But again, the new norm is going to be, I think, you know, kind of a work in progress as we try to figure out what works and what doesn't for each level of golf. Junior golf, where you have you know, large fields, and then the, you know, and the state amateurs versus, you know, just a regular, you know, event at the course type of thing too. So we'll have to see. Um, Go ahead.
Yeah, the scoring thing, like, you know, it's crossed my mind of just like, okay, you know, like you you keep my scorecard all day and then you hand
Right.
it to me, and it's like, you know, even at the end of the round, like there's, you know, there's no handshakes. I mean, there's some fist bumps, you know, maybe you know, weird
Elbows.
elbow
Yeah.
bump or something like
Yeah.
that, you know. But then the scorecard thing is just like, wait a minute, like, okay, yeah, again, you've been touching that, like, you know, I don't know, I've kind of been aware of stuff like that, like, you know, if I'm not going to share my pencil with someone, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You know, and I've tried to make sure that it's like I'm using the same pencil during the tournament. You know, I'm not going to just grab on the first
Right.
tee every day. I'm not going to grab one. And I think most people are, you know, they can be safe, you know, in their own way, however they feel most comfortable.
Yeah, I remember now too. At Gary's tournament the other day, they did scoring on the carts, so they did with their phones, and so you conceivably, you know, listening to you talk about the rake, you know, you could have a designated person to rake in your group, a designated person to score, a designated person to pull the pin, and if
Yeah,
you know, it's going to be different than it was, somewhat inconvenient. It might disrupt your concentration, but everyone's going to have a degree of that at some point during the round. So, well, and it's better to play than not to play, I guess, at the end of the day, right?
agree. And I think, I mean, I don't know, like if you're playing and if you're playing state open and you think the difference in you winning is the fact that you couldn't pull the pin or something like that, I mean, odds are you probably weren't going to win, you know. Like,
Yeah, right.
um that, you know, you can just look at, golf in a normal time, like it's you got to be able to adapt, you got to be able to overcome whatever kind of
Yeah,
um weird hurdles or weird kind of curveballs that get thrown your way. So it's like, um you get to play, you get to compete. I mean, and so I mean, I'm looking forward to whatever I can, you know, whatever state opens all summer,
yep,
um, and just hoping that, you know, they're able to go because, it's nice to be out there. I mean, even in March and April, even though I wasn't playing tournaments, you know, I was practicing and playing a lot, and I was like,
sure.
hey, this is great social distancing. Like, I'm walking, I'm not close to anyone on this golf course, or I'm practicing and I got lost on the chipping green, putting green. I'm like, this is great. Like, I've always been doing this, you know.
Sure.
And that's what golf, you know, lets you do. It lets you get away from other people a bit.
So what are the plans for the summer? What are you going to play?
I mean, I'm looking at I'm looking at a lot of state opens.
Hmm.
I mean, there'll be maybe a few Monday qualifiers. We'll see what my finances look here. I'm playing next week, the final, or not the final, but I'm playing the Outlaw event next week. But then, I mean, I think I'm looking at a stretch of like Colorado to Texas to Arizona to Wisconsin State Open. Basically, that's like end of July, early August.
Sure.
Um, and then, yeah, there might be, a couple Mondays in there, a couple of Dakotas Tour events, maybe. But it's just it's kind of a weird summer because there's not, there's no Q school to look forward to or
Right.
to prepare for. But also financially, there's no Q school to save up for.
That's true too.
uh,
The good news is there's
yeah,
no Q school. The bad news is there's no Q school.
yeah. But then, yeah, I mean, it leaves me in limbo more and more, which I've been in limbo, I guess, the last 3 years,
Hmm.
with no status, and um, would just, I love competing, so I'm just gonna keep trying to figure out how to get a breakthrough somewhere,
Sure.
um, and and whatever whatever those options are.
Well, and lastly, I don't want to let you leave without telling us more about the revelation we saw on Twitter recently. You're going to be helping one of the most popular golf Twitter accounts that's out there right now, the Monday Q Info, and I mean that account is really, I think, captured the challenge of the mini tour golfer better than any account or any anybody ever has, and you're going to contribute to that. What are you going to do, Neil? And tell us a little bit more about trying to provide some insight with that account.
Yeah, I reached out to Ryan, just saying, hey, I don't know if there's any way I can help, because I love what he does. I mean, yeah, the stories he's telling are great. It's unbelievable where he finds these stories. So the podcast, it's mainly, it's going to be a Monday qualifier recap once we get going, which,
Sure.
I guess a week and a half from now, we're thankfully going to have a Corn Ferry Monday.
Yep.
Um, and then there'll be some PGAs, I guess, yeah, in like 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks from now or something. So we'll talk those about the guys I get through. Um, and odds are I've either played the course, or I know the guys who qualify, or somehow, I got some connection there just because I'm so old, like I guess I'm the old veteran, that's like, oh yeah, I've been around for so I'm happy to play that part. Um, but Ryan, like I said, the way he's able to get some of these stories, we did a little rehearsal podcast on a past Monday qualifier, and 12 of the guys, like, I think, 7 or 8 of them I'd kind of heard of, and I looked up and it's like, oh yeah, this guy was on Canada, Latin. This guy was Corn Ferry. And then there's 3 guys who I could not find, a PGA Tour profile. So it basically said he's never, or
Wow.
the only PGA Tour event they played was that Corn Ferry event that they qualified for, that Nashville Open last year.
Hmm.
And I'm like, I got nothing on these guys. And then Ryan's like, well, this guy used to be a painter, and like, the week he qualified, like he got a new puppy, so he was inspired. And then I'm like, how are you getting these things? So it's gonna be fun. I think it comes down to 2 golf nerds just talking about golf. So I hope we're successful. Um, it really is right up my alley, being able to talk about golf and the qualifiers, and what some of these journeys have been for some of these guys, and what that one week can mean.
Sure.
Um, you know, just being able to get to the Monday, how exhilarating that is, how good you feel Monday night, and then what it can mean if you actually take advantage of that Thursday through Sunday.
Well, and it extends, I think the awareness of the mini tour pro with the outlaw tour, even the tours that are going down in Florida. On the women's side, the Cactus Tour has continued to forge on, despite the pandemic, um, and I think there's, especially with this outlaw tour. I mean, it's kind of taken on a life of its own when there's people out there demanding more streams so they can see their favorite golfer. I mean, I think it says something for, maybe the potential there, and then you guys bring an awareness to, the individuals, the characters, the personalities. I think is only going to build off of that. There is no minor league per se with regard to professional golf, and a lot of it's been dominated by the PGA Tour, for better or worse, as we've talked about in the past. um, this is going to be fascinating to see where this goes.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear you say that, because that's kind of what we thought. I mean, this some of the live, the live video that the Outlaw Tour has been doing. I mean, it's great. Like, there was one day, I guess I played in the mornings. Then yeah, it was the Scottsdale AZ Open. So I was in the afternoon. I was back in my apartment just relaxing. I'm like I'm gonna watch a little bit. I'm like, this is unbelievable. Like I was out there 4 hours ago, and it's like it's almost like I'm watching, the Golf Channel. I mean, it's totally bare bones, stripped down, kind of broadcast, but it's
Right.
great because it's so interactive. Or whoever has the camera and is driving in the cart, is just looking at comments, and it's like, oh,
Yep.
if this person wants to know, okay, what they hit, you can't do that on the PGA Tour. They're going to be following Tiger, and it's like you got the
Right.
announcers doing this, and then they got to get the sponsors in, then they got to get the CEO in, and talk about this. And it's like there's so much more going on in that. And I loved the attention, not for myself. The one tournament TPC a couple weeks ago when they live streamed, I loved it when I got off. The Outlaw Tour is like, hey, like, there's more people watching your stream
Yeah.
than
That's right.
all the other streams like combined. I'm like, oh, that's my fan club. That's my Neil hole by hole, guys. They're out there. They've been doing a good job, since before any other, like,
Yep.
they've been out there, not as long as Tiger Tracker, but they've been
Keep
out there
keep
a long
talking. I
time.
got a prop here. Hang on one second here.
Okay. Oh yeah, gonna get the hat. Yep. So it was cool when I heard that, and then of course the next day I think
There
they
we go.
streamed us again the next day. There it is.
There
Yep.
it is. Yes, just to show this is what we're talking about, folks. His fan
Yep.
club sent me the last hat when we started up the website a couple years ago. So we haul that out whenever you're playing.
Yeah, and it's I mean it's fun to get off after the round and see, like, man, there's so many notifications on Twitter. I know there's a dark side to it all. If people
Right.
whatever, but I mean, hey, the attention right now is great. The mini tours need it because there's a lot of guys in a similar boat to myself. Where there's an interesting story, and we just haven't had a breakthrough, and haven't had you know we haven't had anyone really to tell the story, like,
Right.
like Rory's story or a Tiger story, Phil's, all those guys, that they're awesome, and they have great stories themselves. But we've heard a lot of that, and man, some of us that are down here in the minor leagues have some good things. And hey, DraftKings is the other thing. Like,
Yeah.
they've brought the attention to it too, um, because some of these guys who love betting on sports, they needed a fix in a way. They needed to find something, and I can't imagine it being easy to bet on mini tours. Like, I think it would be easier to bet on the PGA Tour than to bet on us, because I don't know. It'd be easier for Vegas, be easier for the odds on the
Right.
PGA Tour guys. I don't know. I mean, there's
Because
so
there's
many
a
so many
history.
there's a history, and so many of us are unknown. I think I
And
think one of the first. Go
and
ahead.
you change from day to day too. I mean, there's
Yeah,
guys that are going out there shooting 62 one day and then they stall. But I mean, the ability to go solo and the way the courses are set up to promote that, I mean, it really is. It's a lottery.
yeah, it is. But it's fun to have that involved. I mean, there's I've had a few people reach out to me on Twitter saying, hey, thanks, great round today. Like, I won some money because of you or whatever. I had you on my team, and I finished second in the pool. And I'm like, hey, thanks. Like, I was just happy with my 65. Like, I wasn't doing it for you, but I'm glad that there's that. I'm glad
Yep.
there's that kind of benefit. And I've had a lot of random Twitter followers, and you look at their bio, and all of a sudden it says DFS, Daily Fantasy Sports. I'm like, oh, that's why you're following me. Just to kind of see maybe if whether I'm posting something on my story at like 3 a.m. where I'm out at a bar drinking, and it's like, I mean, you're not going to see that, but some of the guys might do that, and then these betters, they're not going to bet on you.
Right.
Um, but the best kind of I guess consequence or whatever, from all this is, a couple of these guys that have reached out to me. One of them was like, hey, like, I'm going to pay it forward. You made me some money in this DraftKings thing. Let me pay for your entry fee next week. So
Wow.
he PayPal'd me some money, and I'm like that's absurd, because like, I mean, I've never had like the huge sponsors,
Right.
to where it's that's yeah, that's kind of why I've always valeted, is to just make the money on the side, to keep things going. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh wow, this guy, he just said, I just want to pay it forward. So um, that was great. And I love that exposure. And I hope Outlaw Tour, I know that they got some smart guys that are trying to turn into this even more, get
Right.
more and more exposure.
Well, and then I'll leave you with an idea here in a minute, but just for those that are watching, it cost Neil $700 to enter the last event. He cashed, I believe I saw on Twitter, 1,300, and you cleared essentially $600 for the week. And again, depending on whether you eat In and Out or Culver's, you're not going to be going to you're probably not going to be going to the buffet and or the steakhouse to eat off your winnings, because you need that for the next week, and you still need to find another $100 to get the entry, had it not been for the person paying your next entry fee. It's that kind of thing that makes the mini tour golfer unique.
Just look at the other side. Like, look at Rory. I mean, I like Rory McIlroy, but I'm just using it as an example. Like, come on, he doesn't need a dime from anyone to pay for any entry fee or any
Right.
meal or whatever. But it's like, um, a lot of us, man, it makes the world of a difference. I went right from the golf course to the restaurant to the steakhouse last night to valet, not to eat, to valet. So I could make $200 cash, and I'm like,
Yep.
hey, that's great. And then the guy sent me the money for next week's entry fee, and I'm just like, holy
Wow.
cow! I mean, that changes it to where whatever I can make, it won't be the profit minus, or won't be the minus the entry fee.
Right. It'll be clear.
Um, it starts even, so it's great. And hey, I'm not the only one in this kind of situation. Anyone out there who has a friend or has someone that they know or whatever, it's great to pay it forward like that.
Yeah. Well, and so I'll leave you with this, Neil. So my idea for the Outlaw Tour, you talk about the connection with DraftKings. If we can get the carts they used in the match between Tiger and Phil with all those cameras in them, and
Yeah,
the
hit them.
ability
Yeah,
at them, and then find a way to project out with zoom capability. Could you imagine these guys that are doing the stream being able to use a little lever to zoom in on Neil Johnson putting, so they don't have to walk up greenside to get close? You got that, and maybe even get Brent Musburger to broadcast. I mean, nobody likes sports gambling more than Brent Musburger, and I think that might get him to that level where it could redefine how we look at mini tour golf, because it's going to be. I mean, again, it's going to be like watching Tin Cup on with a different ending every week.
yeah, and I mean, yeah, Brent always knows the odds, so even if it's the mini tour, the Outlaw Tour playing Lone Tree Golf Club, he's going to know the odds of someone hitting the Island Green, the 12th hole at Lone Tree. Like, he's going to know. And he'll probably have an idea whether or not that player's girlfriend, broke up with him the week before, or something weird like that. And it's and I hope so. I mean, I know, like I said, I know the guys at the Outlaw Tour are brainstorming ideas. And I'm going to talk to one of the guys here shortly about that. I think about something like that, to see what
Yeah,
what we can do to keep pushing this forward. Because mini tours, state opens, they're going to be huge this year. I mean, we talked at the beginning
really
of this.
big.
There's no Canadian tour. Yeah, there's the PGA Tour events, but that's just going to be a blur kind of as they go through. The Corn Ferry events are going to be just stacked. Um, so anyone who doesn't have guaranteed starts on Corn Ferry, they're not going to get in unless they can successfully Monday qualify.
Right.
So those guys will be looking for stuff to play, and throughout the summer into the fall, and then next winter. I mean, I hope that these outlaw events, I hope we can get to over 100 guys every single week, because there's so many of us down here in Arizona that you know if they have nothing to play and they're not going to spend the money on Canadian Tour Q School or Latin American Q School, all of a sudden, and they didn't already spend it on the Corn Ferry. These guys might have some cash to spend, and we might have some great fields, and then see what we can do with live streaming and live scoring, and just keep rolling with some of that great momentum.
Yeah, a lot of great personalities out there on these tours, and a lot of guys that have been very engaging with their, in terms of on these streams, and in terms, talking to the guys in the cart as they, are walking off greens, going to tee boxes. I mean, it's nice to see a form of golf that isn't just so laser focused, from the first tee to the 18th green before you see a smile. And I guess, I get it. It's professional sports, but at the same time, I do think that there's a niche out there for, the other side of golf, and you guys are certainly delivering it. So good luck on that, Neil, and good luck on everything going forward, and appreciate you talking to us today here on Wisconsin.golf.
Yeah, let's do it again, hopefully.
All right.